This is the 18 Strong Podcast with Jeff Pellizzaro, episode number 64.
That player that's at 95 that, is hitting it 235, 240 off the tee and, would love to get that extra 30 yards, it really is in there to get up to that 105, 108 range. All of a sudden now that guy's carrying it 270 and it's a completely different game for him.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzaro.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jeff Pellizzaro, golf fitness professional and physical therapist, and host of the 18 Strong Podcast. And as always, I want to thank you for joining me on the show today. This week, we've got a topic that I know you're interested in. It's one that every golfer wants to know more about, and that's basically how to get more distance, how to get more speed in your golf swing. And as much research as I do and my cousin Ryan, who's my partner here at 18 Strong, as much research as we do on what you guys want, what's going to benefit your game the most, what are you looking for and searching for on the internet, it always comes down to pretty much two things, and that's how do I get more distance and how do I get more flexibility. And whether I agree with those topics, that those are the two most important things you should be focusing on, that is what the numbers say, and that's what you guys want. So we're going to give it to you this week. So today we're going to talk about Overspeed Training. And we've got the guys from Catalyst Golf Performance and Superspeed Golf, Mike Napoleon and Kyle Shay, two founders of the company. And we touched a little bit on Overspeed Training last week in the episode 63, which we titled The Regular Guy's Formula for a Great Off-Season. And in that episode, we basically broke down piece by piece what your off-season should look like this year so you can play at your best when you step onto the first tee next year. So what are you doing this off-season? And we talked about Overspeed Training as a very important add-on that you can put on to your training schedule, your practice schedule, that's definitely going to be a benefit. It's going to help increase your speed, and it's going to help kind of work on your timing, your tempo, a little bit of that stuff. So the guys from Catalyst, Kyle and Mike, are going to talk about, first, what is it? What's Overspeed Training? And how have they been using this technique in other sports basically forever? I mean, for sprinters, football players, baseball players, they've been using these techniques, and now we're starting to see it being used a lot more in golf. And these guys, being golf professionals, fitness professionals, and kind of having a whole system of coaching at their facility, they've come up with a pretty slick system called Superspeed Golf and the Superspeed Golf Clubs. And so they're going to talk about what they created, how it's helping their clients, and how it's getting guys to definitely increase their driver distance and swing speed. And at the end of the show, they were nice enough. We've got a special offer for you guys to get your hands on some of these Superspeed Golf Clubs at a discounted price. So stay tuned to the end when I catch you on the other side. And speaking of special offers, if you didn't go get your free warm-up guide that we put together a full, I think it's 20 minutes, a warm-up that you can do at home, walking you through foam rolling, dynamic stretches, some rubber band resistance type stuff that you can do before jumping in your car to go to the course. Go grab that at 18strong.com/warmup, or you'll also see, if you go to the show notes page here on the Superspeed Golf page, you'll find that there. You'll see the banner to go get that. Tons of people went and grabbed it. We just released it last week on last week's episode. Tons of people went and grabbed it. We've gotten a lot of great feedback on it, and I'm happy to say that our list of members here at 18 Strong, the 18 Strong community, is now in the thousands of people. And so don't miss out. If you aren't getting our weekly emails on our videos, the newest podcast that's coming out, don't miss out on that stuff. Go grab that warm-up, that free warm-up, and you'll be put on our email list, and you'll get updated with all of our new content that's coming out. Lots of great stuff here on 18 Strong and the 18 Strong podcast. So without further ado, here are the guys from Catalyst Golf Performance and Superspeed Golf teaching you how to gain a little extra yardage in your swing. Hey, Mike and Kyle, welcome to the 18 Strong podcast.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jeff. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting episode because I know that everyone and their brother wants more speed in their golf swing. And so kind of the topic of today is going to be how they can do that. Basically a way that you have solved a bit of a problem for them and a couple of devices that you guys have come up with to help them increase the speed in their swing. But I wanted to give a little bit of background on you guys just as Catalyst Golf Performance and then how you kind of came up with Super Speed Golf. So first, just what is Catalyst Golf Performance? Give us an idea of what you guys do and how that started.
For sure, Jeff. Yeah, Kyle and I developed Catalyst Golf Performance as a very personalized and comprehensive coaching company about 5 years ago now. Our main goal there was to just look under kind of every stone that could possibly be there in a player's game, including a lot of different physical characteristics, biomechanics, the way they swing the club, prior motor patterns, habits, really look at everything and then create a very comprehensive and complete coaching program for them, with the goal of helping them achieve their goals, whatever those may be. So, and that's been a really fun adventure here for the last 5 years. I think one of the things it's taken us down is it's taken us down many, many roads that we didn't necessarily anticipate. Both of us kind of come from the school of thought of, or at least on my end, I'm a swing coach by trade. Kyle's a corrective exercise specialist and fitness trainer, and we've really had the enjoyment, I think, of trying to explore a lot of different avenues. With every new client and every new player that comes in, there's something a little different that we need to do to really help them optimize their performance out on the golf course.
So we like to look at things that other people feel are unusual for the golf industry or the golf swing, and that's kind of fun to surprise our clients with. Each new session feels like something new is being uncovered, and they're like, "Wow, I've never heard that before, or never heard that in the golf industry before."
Yeah, I think we get that a lot from our clients at Catalyst. It's like, wow, nobody's ever looked at that before, and we just kind of tell them like, well, right, but that's why you haven't gotten to that next level with your game, because it really is the fact that you have zero extension in your right big toe is really hurting your backswing or something crazy like that. It's not always that crazy, but it's fun to see some of those fun case studies that we've had in the last 5 years. And a lot of our background came from, I definitely have to, mention TPI and a lot of the education that I've gotten through that organization. We work very closely with a lot of their professionals and also the Czech Institute, a number of others.
Different nutritional backgrounds, different, kind of functional medicine or laboratory-based testing, different massage techniques or manual therapy techniques, different stretching techniques. We kind of just bring a lot of different backgrounds into it and then try to individualize that for our player. And that's fun. Every session's so different, and Mike and I feed off each other. So usually he comes in to see me and what's going on today, and I go in and look at the lesson, and he's like, well, here's what's going on with this. And we just kind of work with people that way every day.
Yeah, and from the Catalyst Golf Performance side, that's sort of our brand that we're developing, that very personalized, comprehensive coaching. We now have 3 academies. We have one in the northern suburbs of Chicago at Royal Melbourne Country Club, and then we have one downtown Chicago right by the Board of Trade at the Buckingham Club, and then another in Dublin, Ohio at the Club at Core Zone. So, we're kind of, that's our main branding with Catalyst, is to, develop better coaching academies, around the country.
Yeah, just looking at your website and everything, it looks like you guys have a little bit of everything. Like you said, the swing instruction side, you've got the physical side. You guys do club fitting and all that stuff too, right?
For sure. Look, anything that's going to help somebody get better at golf, we felt like we need to have our hand in that, because every player's different. We have one client comes in and they've actually got a really good handle on swing technique or how to swing the golf club, but maybe they have some issues physically that are really preventing them from swinging the way they want to. Or the next person comes in and their body's fine, they just have never learned how to play golf. They've never learned the mechanics of the golf swing. That person needs a different program than the first one. The next person comes in and they're actually and this happens a little more rarely, but right off the bat, that really they're doing everything pretty well and their body's in good shape, but their clubs just don't fit them. I mean, that person's going to need club fitting. So we like to think of ourselves more as like a one-stop shop for anything you'd need from a golf performance standpoint. So that when that player comes in, we can just push them out to the right professionals, the right rehab specialists, the right fitness trainers or swing coaches, so that that person's going to get the most out of their time they're putting into their golf game.
Yeah, that's
corresponding, notes. So Mike and I are right there, and it helps every day to be right there next to each other instead of calling him up on the phone and telling him what's going on, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's a communication thing between our staff as well, which gives a more cohesive coaching program to the client. They don't necessarily, the client doesn't really necessarily feel like it's a disjunct thing and they're going to all these different people. They're getting one message from everybody, and I think that's kind of the background synergy that makes it really go.
Right.
Yeah, that whole team approach is something that we talk about here on the podcast a lot. Just and you mentioned, Mike, the TPI, and actually, I think I'm pretty sure I talked to you at the World Golf Fitness Summit. When you guys were in the area with all the different vendors and everything like that, and that's where I first heard of Catalyst and Super Speed Golf, but I know that whole approach, the team approach, is so important, and it's something that I've experienced over the past couple of years. Finding those pros that are open to working with you and keeping the communication barriers open, but to have it all in one place and use the same notes and talk to each other on a regular basis makes a huge difference.
Right, and that's what we looked at. I mean, we said, the message that TPI is sending is fantastic, that, you need to team up and you need to communicate with each other and you need to do that. What I saw in the industry, though, is that there were still a lot of people that were trying to do that, but the communication wasn't very it wasn't easy. Like they're on phone calls, they weren't seeing the clients at the same time, and I just looked at it and said, well, what is like TPI doing when they bring a player in Oceanside? And that was kind of the magic element there. Is like, well, everybody's there at once. I remember talking to Greg Rose and Dave at a conference, and they're like, well, when we have a player come in, we have like 5 of us, and we're all sitting down, and we have a meeting for 30 minutes before we even start assessing them, just to talk about it, so everybody hears the same stuff and the problems and the goals. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean that's a big deal. Like, we definitely need that, and that was kind of the cornerstone of what we developed with Catalyst. Was we developed that proprietary assessment process where that player comes in and we're going to look at all of these things before we start working on anything about your golf game. And in that assessment, all of our coaches, all of our professionals are going to be there during that assessment with that player, so that they're getting touches with all those people, and all of those people are able to work on the same goals and problems that player might have.
Yeah, that's such a huge component, making sure everybody's on the same page. All right, Kyle, I want to ask you a couple questions just about this whole idea. Everybody, like we said, everybody wants more speed in their swing, and it's something that every guy that comes in, they're like, oh, I've been working out, I've been doing this, I've been doing that, but I can't get my swing any faster. And that's kind of the main topic of today's show, and something has really come about in the last several years, and which we refer to as overspeed training. So could you just kind of give a definition of what overspeed training is, and then we're going to get into kind of how you guys have taken overspeed training to a little bit of the next level.
Overspeed training's kind of been around in a lot of different industries, and it's essentially just getting your body to rotate or move faster, whatever different sequence you're using, different sport you're using. You're moving faster than you normally could. So it's like taking the governor off of your body or your brain, so that you can actually access more speed than you normally would have in your daily activities, being baseball, hockey, golf now with our product and some of the other training we do. You want to add anything to that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the very simple definition there is, how do you find a way to make your body move faster during the same motor pattern that it's going through in a specific sport? You've seen like track athletes do this,
right,
for a long time. I mean, even back into like ancient times in the Olympics, you would have, sprinters that would train running downhill. We looked at a lot of that and saw that for a long time where, because of the different gradient, they're actually able to move their body and their legs slightly faster. And then you kind of work on that also in sequential patterns of downhill, flat, slightly uphill inclines. And you see that now with even modern day sprinters. Baseball's been probably the most famous application of overspeed training with Tom House, a very famous baseball coach, coached everybody from Nolan Ryan through Clemens and a whole bunch in between, using series of slightly lighter, slightly heavier weight baseballs to help pitchers increase arm speed and pitching speed.
Hockey, you'll see it quite a bit, with different sticks or different pucks. Just different track and field. I think we've heard javelin and shot put. People have told us about too.
Yeah, there's a lot of different sports where this application came, and we talked to a number of like biomechanics professors and people about motor learning professors to figure out exactly why this was working in those sports and how it could be applicable to golf in a better way. And there were other people trying to kind of see ways that it could go into golf, but we tried to do a lot of that deep research, and there are a lot of different areas there that came in. There's some like memory pattern things, like as far as when you make a movement, your body actually can kind of remember for a very short term amount of time how fast it was able to move in that motion, both safely, without injuring itself, which is always one of those things that the body does. It kind of protects itself from injury. So that can limit the amount of speed or force that can go through some of these different movements that happen. One of the things we found there is that the biggest hurdle was to be able to get that short-term memory of being able to move faster in overspeed training to become a long-term or permanent change in the golf swing. And that's been something that we've actually worked on more in frequency of how often you need to do overspeed training, and then also moving into different advancements to protocols that you need to do as you continually move through the process.
It's a delicate thing where you need to be able to do enough but not too much, because you can actually go the opposite way if you do it too much, versus if you don't do enough, you still won't get the gains. So we worked a lot on that within the overspeed training system.
Yeah, and there's some cool like biochemistry stuff in the brain that has some real grounded science as to why that works. But the simple answer there is, like Kyle said, not too much, not too little, and it's got to be intense for the right amount of time while you're in the training.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge point, because most people think, more is better on everything, whether it be medication, whether it be fitness training, whether it be exercise, hitting golf balls. But it's such an important point that your body utilizes your practice sessions and is a very fine-tuned machine, but you can overdo it, just like you can overdo running your car at a heavy RPM, or when you're practicing you can not push yourself hard enough. You mentioned the intensity part, so we're going to get into some of the protocols and things that you have found with your research, but give me an idea. Let's talk about what it is that you guys have come up with, which you guys have named Super Speed Golf. And I've seen the product. I think it's awesome. We've been using it. You guys were kind enough to send some over our way so we could try it out in the gym. And we've been doing some of the overspeed training stuff. Actually, anybody that has gone to get our free ebook here at the 18 Strong podcast, which is 5 yards in less than 5 minutes, is basically kind of a recap of an overspeed training protocol that I learned from Tom House from TPI. And I know that you guys have learned a lot of Tom House's stuff and have utilized this in your research. So basically you guys have taken this to another level. So give us an idea of first, when did you decide, hey, we could create a pretty cool product that is going to help us do this even better?
Yeah, I would say it all really started. It birthed out of some of the Tom House coachings that we saw at the World Golf Fitness Summit when he spoke about how to start to integrate some of the things he'd done in baseball into golf. We certainly took that and said, wow, this is a cool thing. I mean, just like you said, everybody wants to hit it further. I mean, it's a constant goal that we're going to hear from our clients coming in. It's like, if I could hit it 30 yards further, I think it would be a huge asset to the game. And I mean, as a swing coach, I think that many coaches out there in the world underplay the importance of distance. I think there's a lot of that going on in the golf industry from a coaching side that people are so worried about control and not swinging too fast, not putting enough energy. And what we see that result for the normal golfer a lot of times when we come in and assess them is they're being very, very careful with the way they're swinging. They're not sequencing well. They're not creating good energy transfer, which is one of the things that we see with our tour players. Is the reason they're as consistent as they are is that they're very efficient and consistent with the way they create energy and power, even though they're creating way more than most amateur players. So that's kind of the original piece. We said, look, this is definitely something that has some grounded science. It's worked in a lot of sports for a long time. And, we said, okay, well, let's give it a go. And, so we started working with a number of our players.
Especially long drive professionals. We had a team of long drive professionals, and, they've got to get their speed up. The more speed they can get, the more advantage they have. And so we, started using these overspeed training protocols and some of the stuff from Tom House to implement into their own training protocols throughout that period we were working with them.
Yeah. So, and even, earlier than that too, just getting some normal golfers to try to use this stuff. And we found some immediate success, like even using the sort of original protocol that I was recommending, where you'd use a golf shaft and then, you were going to use your driver and then you were going to use like a 6-iron or a wedge. And those were, I would say, roughly like a very lightweight club, kind of a mid-weight club. It's obviously the same weight as your driver because it is your driver, and then a club that's going to be heavier than your driver. So I would say in a crude form, that was a very basic overspeed training set that you could pull out of your bag. Some of the things we found with that, before we had really done a lot of research on our protocols, is that we found that players would get an initial jump in speed, but it generally wouldn't stay very long, and it wouldn't last. And it was something that if they did it right before they hit drivers, it would keep that bump, but it didn't really consistently stay. So, like Kyle mentioned, it was about 2 years ago now. We started working with a number of top Remax World Long Drive professionals that were really looking at getting tons more speed on their swing, and guys that were starting at a much higher rate. We had a couple guys that, in a year, we had guys that were starting in that like 130 mile an hour club speed range, which, I mean, again, is ridiculous fast, even on tour standards. But for long drive, that's actually not really competitive. The guys at the top of that heat are really like mid 140s. Mm-hmm. So we took a few of those guys that started around 130, and over the course of a year, with a comprehensive coaching program, but a major component being overspeed training. We had one guy getting up in the like 145, 146 range. We had another player that actually got as high as 156 miles an hour club speed in a year. So there's a lot of cool stuff that can happen. And I will say this: the process of taking somebody from 130 to 156. Is a way different deal than taking somebody that's at 95 to 110. And I would say it's actually much more difficult. That player that's at 95 that, is hitting at 235, 240 off the tee and, would love to get that extra like 30 yards, it really is in there to get up to that 105, 108 range, in the course of probably 4 to 5 months. And we've seen that happen again and again with a lot of our players. All of a sudden now that guy's carrying at 270 and it's a completely different game for him. So, that's a little bit of the history there. But what we found, especially when we started getting really in depth, when we started dealing with these, professional long drive players who, obviously this is their career in a lot of senses, they have to get this speed up. We also had a few tour players that we were working with there that were really in need of some more distance. So we just started doing some research. We have, all the toys in the world at Catalyst Golf as far as, TrackMan and 3D technology and just all kinds of different measurement tools there to be able to check this stuff. And, so we threw a couple guys on our 3D systems and measured the biomechanics when they were going through some of these training protocols. So initially, some of the things we found there that were very important, when somebody's swinging just a shaft by themselves, we found that it was too light. Okay. And when it was too light, what we found, if anybody listening to this knows something about like kinematic sequence and biomechanics and sequencing, is when the body starts to transfer energy, there has to be a point where like the lower body transfers energy up to the next part of the chain. Let's call that, just for very, easy way to think about it, like the legs of the lower body need to transfer energy to the torso.
Right.
Okay? What we see on a sequencing graph on 3D on that is we'll actually see the lower body, well, we call it posting, or you call it like a deceleration point. You see a peak right there in how fast the lower body is accelerating, and then that transfers energy up to the next part. Well, what we found when you're just swinging like a shaft by yourself, it's too low. We don't get that normal energy transfer jump. We don't get that normal peak because there's not enough resistance going on in that motion to be able to create that energy transfer. So we looked at that and said, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why are we having them just, basically swing this shaft really fast around them if it's not relating to the motion that we're trying to get them to produce, which is the golf swing? So that was kind of the first piece that we really found that we needed to change. So we tested a bunch of different weighted clubs, as far as what we wanted to see. And we kind of landed on a point of about 20% lighter than the driver is where we really started to see very similar sequencing patterns as their normal golf swing. And it was sequencing patterns that were able to go at a much faster speed because it was 20% lighter than the driver. But below that, we found that it just wasn't quite as effective as far as getting that jump in speed for the overspeed training.
Gotcha.
So, we then kind of kept looking at some stuff, and we were kind of still using that driver as the middle club. We also found that on the other side, we believe strongly, and we've vetted this with a number of different biomechanics professionals, that during the overspeed training, we want the body segments moving faster during every piece of the training than they would during their normal golf swing. There's a little adjustment there when they're doing the kneeling swings, but in general, like any standing or more aggressive swing, we want all body segments moving faster and being more aggressive in their rotation than they would in their normal golf swing. So we found that the heavy side, being 20% heavier, which was about what the 6-iron is and what the kind of the recommendation from the baseball world was too much for the golf swing. We were getting slower rotational speeds in different body segments. So we actually bumped that one down and found that really just a little bit heavier than the driver is optimal. We settle on about a 5% overage on that. Then later stuff and more research, we also found that it was more effective to have 2 clubs on the lighter side and one with that just slightly heavier side than having one that was exactly the same weight as your driver. So our middle club in our system is actually about 10% lighter than the driver. So that was sort of where the initial birth of super speed golf was, is we found that we want to have a club about 20% lighter than the driver, about 10% lighter than the driver, and then about 5% heavier than the player's driver to get those optimal results both right off the bat with the overspeed training, and also it started to help us as we sequenced out their program over the next weeks, months, that system helped produce more long-term and permanent results with super speed. So then it was just off to the races. Then we kind of just put our entrepreneurial hats on and branded it. We said, we would like to have an actual training aid system for this. And we tested a couple different versions. We tested a version actually it was just one club that had detachable weights on it,
Mm-hmm.
So that, you basically only had one shaft, which was a lot cleaner in some ways from a positive standpoint. Just the way we were getting weight connections to be, and also we found that we wanted people to be able to grab one club and the next very quickly when they're doing the training. We didn't want to have any downtime. And we had people that were taking 30 to 45 seconds to get the weight to change, and so we kind of killed that idea and said, well, we got to go with 3 clubs so that they can just pick one up and go right into the next training. And then that's when we said, well, next thing we need to do is color code it so that it just makes it easy for people to understand the training and do it. So we just picked out some colors and put logos on them and had our first prototypes made, and just seemed like it was a home run for people. And at this point, I think we have sets now with super speed golf in over 12 countries around the world. We've got 20 plus tour players working with it on basically every major tour around the world. We got about 10 Remax Pro long drive professionals working with it. So it's kind of getting out there and it's starting to proliferate through the market, and it's fun because we find that as part of our coaching programs at Catalyst, it's not a fitness training tool, it's not a swing mechanics training tool. It's really a new area of training that didn't really exist before for golfers. It's something that every golfer can add into their routine. That's going to give them immediate results and also lasting long-term results.
That's what's cool. And what I love about it is pretty much every client that I've had come in this past week, first of all, they get excited because they see him, and they're slick looking. They're really, really well done. So you guys did an awesome job there. But I tell them, I got some new toys for you guys, and they walk back and they look and they're like, what's this? And I kind of explain them. But from my 15-year-old kid who is looking to definitely pick up some speed, and he's there working with us to get stronger and put on a little size and mass and stuff like that, but he needs speed. Then I've got my 72-year-old client that came in, we have him doing some of these things, because every single person wants a little bit more club head speed. Nobody's ever going to be happy with what their club head speed is. But you guys made it so easy to just change it out quick. They're obviously very simple to use because they're pretty much just like a golf club, except just with the weight on the end. So what are some of the results? You guys, I'm sure, have been doing a lot of different research. And what are some of the numbers that you're seeing as far as increases in speed? What's the time frame? That type of stuff.
So typically we see on average about a 5% increase after that first session. So usually the session takes about 10 to 12 minutes to do, depending on what protocol you're doing. And then what we're often looking at is just the increase in driver speed. So we're testing that out. Permanency-wise, what we like to see is a 6-week time frame where somebody's doing that about 3 times a week. For a day off in between, 3 times a week for 6 weeks, and you'll see that jump after that first session permanent. But we were doing demo days all over this spring and summer, and we saw much bigger jumps than that. We saw some a little bit smaller, but on average, 5% is pretty easy to get within that first 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say one of our very early, but one of the best results we've had was with one of our tour players. His name's Clint Rice. He's actually a first alternate for the U.S. Open this year. He's actually in second stage of Q School coming up here in a few days. So wish him luck if he's listening.
Good luck, Clint.
But Clint's from Australia. Worked with a number of good coaches down there that colleagues of ours that we've dealt with for a long time. And he was a guy that was competitive in tour tournaments, both in Asia, Australia. He just missed, getting web.com previous year. And, he was one that was fighting 104 to 106 club speed. So, this is a guy that is behind the 8 ball all the time when he's going into a tournament because he's just not hitting it far enough. He's carrying the ball 260, where he's playing against guys that are carrying it 285, 290 all the time. He'd spent about 5 years, he said, when he came in, when we assessed him at Catalyst, really working on some very intense stuff in the gym, working on a number of different things in the swing mechanics to try to increase club speed. And, so we put him through our assessment and, TrackMan numbers off the bat. He was right around like 106 and a half were his swings that he came in with. And he looked down at that and like, wow, that's pretty good. I've been working on this, getting it up from 104. I'm up 2.5 miles an hour. I'm really happy about that. And we just kind of looked at each other and we knew he was sort of an ideal candidate with some other things we had seen physically for super speed. So we had him go through a super speed training the first day that he came in, and very first swing out of the gate, I'm never going to forget the look on his face, but first swing out of the gate after he'd done the protocol, and he was winded. And anybody that's done this protocol knows that you're pretty tired after you do it the first time. He was winded, hits the first drive after it, and it was like 112 and a half. And he looked down at the monitor and was just like in disbelief. Like, he was like, did you guys do something? Like, what's going on? I haven't had a golf swing over 110 in 5 years, that kind of thing. And, in about 3 months of working with it consistently, he was up in the 116, 117 range all the time permanently. And it's been a fun year for him. He's had basically, I think, about 3 wins now worldwide. Like I said, he's going through Q School right now, so we're wishing him the best of luck. But that's like a life-changing thing for a player like that, to be able to all of a sudden gain 35 yards of carry distance and basically be hitting every club in the bag one club further now. His birdie average has gone up by 25% this year. So those kind of things are pretty cool. That was a really good result.
And he did nothing else in the gym. He didn't change anything else except super speed. So that was like the perfect one for us to watch. He was hesitant actually to work with us on anything else. He's like, I've got a good trainer. I've got a good swing coach. I'm like, just try the super speed stuff. And so it was like that no change environment except for introducing overspeed training.
Yeah. So there's a cool one with a tour player. I mean, we've had a number of clients. I think another really fun one, we had a guy that was like 72 years old, 72-year-old player. He was right in the like 72, 73 mile an hour club speed range. And, he had some health issues, had some physical issues before that. In like a month and a half, we got him up to 90 mile an hour club speed. This is a guy that is now, it was about to quit playing golf because he basically couldn't hit it more than 180 yards, and now's back to hitting it 230 and having a blast. So there's a lot of those kind of things.
That's so cool because it's guys from both ends of the spectrum. The second guy, the 72-year-old. I mean, I have a client of mine resonating in my head right now that I know is going to want to try this, and the fact that you're seeing those kind of results. But then, like you kind of mentioned with your tour player, that's a guy whose swing is pretty honed in. His mechanics are probably really, really good. And to make him get better, like you said with your long drive guys, it's almost like taking, it's not as hard to drop a guy from a 20 handicap to a 15 handicap, but take a guy and drop him from a 5 handicap to a 2 handicap is way harder. I would imagine it's pretty similar stuff, taking a guy who's a tour level player and making him swing that much faster.
I mean, in Clint's case, we're looking at taking a guy that's a, plus 2.5 and making him a plus 5.
Right.
He just has one club less into the greens. He's hitting it. The game is so much easier for him, and that's the best thing that.
We had another player, who actually a collegiate player here in Chicago. It was a female collegiate player who her freshman year had a really serious case of mono while she was in college. So she lost a lot of strength. She had lost some speed. That was another one that went from like 76 mile an hour club speed at the low point up into like the high 80s now, like 87, 88. I believe she actually won one of her collegiate tournaments this year in the Midwest. So, there's a lot of those. It's definitely something that can help people, kind of break through some barriers that they haven't been able to jump through before.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you this, because, we mentioned
taking the governor.
Yeah, taking the governor off, exactly. And speaking of that, we've got, a guy who's 72 years old who you said, gain speed. What are some of the, well, first of all, are there any safety concerns? Are there any cons with doing some of this overspeed stuff? And, what are the limitations that you use, or how do you take a guy who's 72 and get him into this program and kind of ramp him in versus maybe a guy like Clint who, you could probably almost kind of jump right into some of this stuff?
Preferably, we like them to do some type of dynamic warm-up beforehand. So we have one of those on our website. But if you're, say you're a trainer or somebody else, making sure that you have an eye on them and kind of helping them out with their mobility and stability and other things is always a plus. But at least if you're just out there doing some type of warm-up protocol before you get into it is going to prepare the body so that it doesn't just go straight into it and then potentially cause some type of, shoulder or back injury. We haven't really had anything happen from it, but just to take that precaution, that's what we're looking for.
I would say go back to our TPI roots here, too. I mean, obviously, every one of these players that starts working with this optimally has had some type of physical screen and isn't in pain. I mean, I would say to everybody out there, if you buy the system and, you're a guy that has chronic back pain all the time, and you just be careful. I would say when you start doing some of this, that's why we really like to. We recommend everybody that's out there working on their golf game is working with fitness professionals and swing coaches who are going to have an eye on that sort of thing. Because it's no. I would say this: it's less intensive to go through the super speed training than it is to hit a full bucket of balls, because you're not dealing with any impact. There's no impact with the ball, which is actually where we see a lot of kind of force go into the body that can create injury. Because you're not hitting the ball or hitting the ground or anything like that, it's a less intensive motion. So we really haven't we don't really have any potential risk for injury on that. That being said, you always have to. You always want to be safe when you're doing these protocols.
That's a great point, that you're not having the impact of going out and hitting a bucket of balls. Kyle, if you could talk about, because I know you have everybody do it both right-handed and left-handed. Can you explain why you do that?
We have two main reasons. One that's just most common that we see is just being able to balance out the musculature both on the dominant side and the non-dominant side. So you'll see a lot of players, say they're a right-handed player, their right side of their body tends to be built up more. So the right side of their rib cage on the front and the back from all the quick acceleration or rotation on the downswing. So the backswing, you're usually storing more energy, and then the downswing, it's a lot more force. So you'll see people that are more muscular on that side. Same with the left-handed player, it'll be on their left side. So being able to do that tends to offset if you were going to get some type of pain syndromes anywhere on the body, typically the spine. And then also when we were working on the sequence of either whatever 3D system we were measuring, we wanted to be able to have them be able to use the muscles that decelerate on the way down just as much as they can on the acceleration. And Mike, as a swing coach, can probably just add a little more to that.
Yeah, so when we talked about that before, just in the basic kinematics deal, like, we call it posting in the golf swing. When you feel that like plant on the lead side and the energy transfers through the swing and out to the club. We find that swinging on your non-dominant side strengthens and activates that musculature that you need to post. So, if somebody isn't able to really activate any of the muscles that are going to help them post and create energy or transfer, then they're not going to get very good energy transfer. So we actually find that is like non-dominant swings, whether it's with super speed or anything else, is an incredibly effective way to help players increase efficiency in their sequencing and energy transfer in their swing.
So if you're looking at somebody, a right-handed player, their pelvis on the downswing is rotating left, but eventually it has to stop. It's not going to spin in a circle completely. So the non-dominant swings that we make help to train those muscles to stop, because if you're accelerating quicker with the super speed clubs or getting more club head speed, you have to have the ability to decelerate just as well. Otherwise, you're not going to pick up the speed. Your body will actually slow you down if you can't decelerate that new speed.
That's a great point. And something else another reason why, I've recommended to our players, to swing left-handed, especially the guys that are playing a lot. I'm like, just take a club or an orange whip or whatever you got and swing. Give me 20 swings a day, just left-handed, more just to, like you said, kind of offset all the rotation that they do with their dominant side. But from my physical therapy days, when I was working with hemiplegic patients and stroke patients, we would have them do things bilaterally simply because doing it on one side helps train your brain and helps train those muscle activation patterns to do it the same way on the other side. So when I had a stroke patient that couldn't do a bicep curl properly, I'd have them do it on both sides, and studies showed that just doing it the opposite way helps teach your brain a little bit better on how to kind of retrain those patterns. So that's another great bonus there.
Completely agree.
Crossing pattern to be able to integrate right and left hemispheres of the brain as well to that degree.
Yep.
All right, guys, let's give the audience a little bit of tangible stuff that they can take with them as far as what are some of the protocols, even if they don't have the super speed golf clubs. They are able to kind of doctor around some clubs. So like at our gym, before you guys were nice enough to donate a set to Elevated Performance, we had, just the driver. We had a driver that was weighted with a little bit of lead tape. I think it was a little too heavy, probably the 20% range. And then we were using either the shaft or an alignment stick or something like that. So what are some of the protocols that these guys can use? Or what are some of the things, and I'm sure you have this on your website too, but what does a standard protocol look like them? And like you said, how often do they add it in? Do they do it before a workout, after a workout, or on opposite days?
Right, for sure. And I would say the first thing, the easiest, just go to www.superspeedgolf.com and then go to our training page. You're going to see basically all of those training protocols up there with some explanation on how to do them and frequency. So that's a really good resource that we're constantly adding to and building. Our basic protocol starts out like this, and very similar to other overspeed training protocols that are out there. We're going to do swings both kneeling, standing, and then with what we call a step change of direction motion, or basically where you would start with your feet together, and then as you're swinging back, you're stepping forward, planting your lead foot, and then swing through. Kind of like more of just an aggressive, planting of the lead side to kind of get some of that energy transferring up through the system. We recommend in our level 1 protocol, our first protocol, to go 5 swings in the dominant side, then 5 swings in the non-dominant side, always cycling through your clubs in the light, medium to heaviest. Okay, so in our system, that's our green clubs, our lightest in the men's system. You'd be kneeling, you'd swing, if you're a right-handed golfer, 5 swings right-handed, then switch around, swing 5 swings left-handed. Then you grab the blue club, go back to your dominant side, 5 swings right, 5 swings left, then go to the red club, 5 right, 5 left. Then you'd stand up and you'd repeat that process. You'd go back to the green club, 5 right, 5 left, blue, and then red. Then you do our step change of direction motion, 5 5 right, 5 left, go through that whole pattern. We do always like to throw in a couple swings, 2 to 3 swings with the lightest club in your normal golf posture at the end, just to kind of end with the fastest swing, your fastest movement your body's going to do. So that's a little variant, but just at the very end, you just your dominant side and do 3 swings as fast as you possibly can at the end. One other thing that I would recommend, and we have this going back to our the conversation we had about safety and especially some of our older clients that come in, we have another protocol called our intro protocol. This one's just a pared down version of that level 1. So this one only uses 2 positions. It's just going to be our standing position and the step change, and you're only going to do 3 reps, dominant and non-dominant. So I would look at it as it's about half of the swings that are in the level 1 protocol. If we have a client that's coming in that we have any type of concerns about physically, or maybe they have some knee issues and can't do the kneeling swings, or maybe have a little bit more restriction physically, we'll always start them with that protocol first to see how they do, and then as they do that for a couple weeks, we'll move them into that level 1 protocol down the road.
And Jeff, we're looking for ideally 3 times a week on that with a day off in between. So we're targeting there the fast twitch or phasic muscles, which are being used more in like Olympic lifting, potentially med ball work or something like that you use in the gym.
Yep.
So those have a shorter, ability to output, and then they poop out on you. So if you're doing that, you can do it on an off day from the gym or at the beginning. Preferably not pre-fatigue yourself and then do it, because you won't have enough in the tank to be able to get enough speed. And we're looking to swing these clubs as fast as you possibly can on each one. So we're looking each progressive rep trying to gain a little bit more speed. So say you're doing your 3 reps, like rep 3 is going to be a little faster, hopefully, than rep 1.
Yeah, we look at all of our protocols. They're all of them are supposed to be a sprint. They're not a marathon. All of the protocols that are up there really should take no more than about 10 to 12 minutes to get through. If it's taking you a half hour to get through them, I would say you probably need to back down to one of the earlier protocols that you can get through a little faster, because that high intensity kind of one swing after the other, trying to really max everything out, is a really important part of getting the best results with the system.
And even if you get a little off balance, it's okay. Like, we want people to really go after it if possible. And usually we'll see at least 50% of the people too timid. So we have to give them a little bit of encouragement to get them going quicker.
Yeah, it's not a mechanics drill. It's about speed, and it's about getting the body to move faster. We'll take them and we'll work with them, in their swing coaching sessions on their form and mechanics, and we'll work on their strength and stability and all that in the gym. This is about speed, and when they're going through Overspeed Training, we want it to be an intense 10 to 12 minutes. Which is also, I think, one of the very approachable things about the system is it's not going to take you 15 hours a week of new practice to do this. I mean, we're talking, 3 times a week for 12 minutes is really what you're adding in to get, 20, 30 more yards off the tee.
And it can be done, you can do it anywhere you have clearance, in the gym, outside, in a golf bay, just somewhere you're not going to whack something. So people can usually find a space to do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that you could, if you have the space, you could do this in your office. It's that easy.
Sure.
Cool. All right. And so I know that we've kind of made this almost like a commercial for super speed golf, but it's not intended to be that. We wanted to tell you guys about, Overspeed Training, but this product has, and these guys have done the research to really show, what are the right protocols, what are the right measurements, what are the right weights. So hopefully you'll take the information that we've given you here and you'll utilize that. And I wouldn't bring these guys on the show if it wasn't a product that I've tried and that I believe in, and I've seen some of the research on this now. But guys, before we end up, we've always got some last minute questions that I like to throw out to the guests just to kind of get to know you a little bit better and then what you guys have going on. So Mike, I'm going to have you answer first, just some short questions. First, are you a Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore fan?
Oh, I got to go Happy Gilmore.
Nice. And Kyle?
Caddyshack.
Caddyshack. Ooh. All right. Split table.
It's a tough one. I mean, it's a toss-up, but I don't know.
It's tough. It's two classics, but you have to be on one side of the fence, I think. All right, Kyle, for you, if you could pick one person that you could either play 18 holes with or just ride in a cart and chat with, either in the golf world, the golf fitness world, past or present, who would it be? And why?
I've kind of been drawn to Gary Player because of his influence into the fitness industry and, his taking care of his body throughout. So that'd be my guy.
And you, Mike?
I'd definitely go Jack Nicklaus. I think just probably one of the most influential people ever in the golf world. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think two classics there. All right, Mike, what has you guys most excited for Catalyst Golf Performance, Super Speed Golf, as we end out 2015 and go into 2016?
Oh, I think so much. I think, especially with super speed golf, a lot of the opportunities that we're getting to kind of spread the word about overspeed training, and we have a lot of different speaking opportunities and opportunities to do programs like this that we really appreciate you having us on. But this is kind of the part that I think we really like, is trying to help people get better and help people improve, and being able to spread that word to a larger audience.
Awesome.
Yeah, and for me, we've got a couple nice trips coming up, and we tend to get invited to places. So I'll personally be down at the LPGA Tour Championship here in a couple weeks, the CME, and getting to interact with the players and the instructors. One of my favorite things is just talking to the instructors and helping them kind of build power schools or build their coaching programs better. And then we've got the PGA, what is it in Orlando?
PGA Merchandise Show coming up in January. So another big forum that we get to share our product with.
And then our Catalyst clients, we're always getting new and interesting people in. Some just want to get better. Some movers and shakers in all different industries. And Mike and I tend to be able to come up with some fun, innovative things for these guys that have been around a lot of other instructors already and kind of knock their socks off. So that's kind of fun to do.
That's
Agreed.
Awesome. All right, guys. Let the audience know where they can find you, how they can find out more about Super Speed Golf. And as always, I'll have most of this stuff hooked up in the show notes page, some of the links to your website, the training videos and all that. But as far as social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, so Super Speed Golf's on Facebook, Instagram, our website, superspeedgolf.com. Catalyst Golf Performance as well on all of those different platforms, and it's catalystgolfperformance.com. If anybody's in the Chicago area, come see us, come visit with us. We'd be happy to give you a kind of personal tour of everything that we do. That would be kind of the easiest way to find us.
Yeah, we love social media, trying to get that out there. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, connect with us if you're out there.
Fantastic. Well, guys, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. And like I said, I love the product. I think you guys are doing great things and continuing to, push the boundaries as far as the research is concerned, and, really kind of figuring out the best way to do some of this overspeed training, because it is something that so many people out there are striving for, and to be able to do it safely, do it right is very important. And that's kind of what you guys are doing. So appreciate you coming on the show, and look forward to connecting in the future.
Yeah, Jeff. No, we definitely appreciate you having us. And if there's anything else we can do, just let us know.
You bet, guys. Thank you. All right, like I said, we've been using the overspeed training methods and protocols at Elevated Performance and working with my golfers for quite a while now. In fact, like I said, our free ebook that we have here on 18 Strong, 5 yards in less than 5 minutes, which you can get at 18strong.com/5yardsbook, is basically walking you through the protocol of, the different weighted clubs and going through the on the knees position, the standing position, and basically what I call Happy Gilmore swings. But now that I have these slick clubs from the guys at Super Speed Golf, my clients are loving them. I'm loving them. I've started doing it. We're starting to record some numbers of, pre and post. So we'll have some data as far as, what guys' swing speeds are right now, and then what they are after we do, 4, 6, 8 weeks, whatever we do, depending on who it is. So as I mentioned, the guys at Super Speed Golf were nice enough to give us a discount for you, the listeners of 18 Strong. All you have to do if you're looking to purchase these is go to superspeedgolf.com and use the code 18strong, and you'll get a 10% discount on whatever you purchase there. And yes, that's an affiliate code, so we do get a little kickback. So if you are going to purchase, I definitely appreciate if you go through and use our code. You get a discount, we get a little money to support the show here. So I want to thank you for obviously supporting the 18 Strong podcast. Now, don't forget to go get your free in-home warm-up that we mentioned, which is at 18strong.com/warmup. And you're going to get the video, 20-minute video to actually walk you through your warm-up before you go to the course. It comes with a free PDF download, so you actually can print out all the exercises. So, you watch the video once, and then you can pretty much hold on to the PDF and, take that to the course if you want, or just have that, in your living room, and you can do it on your own whenever you have a chance, or do it at the office, whatever it is. So always want to hear from you guys. Reach out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I've been chatting with several of the listeners online over the past week. It's been awesome. Love connecting with you guys. So feel free to reach out, either me at Jeff Pellizzero or at 18strong_ on Twitter and Instagram. So love chatting with you guys. Always want to find out how we can make this show better, what you're looking for, and who we can get on the show for you. Train hard, practice smart, play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.